We had invited the government spokesman, Eric Kiraide, but unfortunately, again, he traveled out of the country today. And we also tried to get the Betting Control and Licensing Board on set today, but then again, no confirmation just yet. So we were left with no choice but to proceed with the initial plan. And we have Sammy Kahiu, who is from the chair, County's Amusement and Gaming Society. Thank you very much, Sammy, for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much.
I want us to get right into this conversation. And of course, I hope, Jackie, we can have that story playing on one side of a set so that we can see the destruction that the Cabinet Secretary was presiding over. But what is your problem with the destruction that is being done by the Ministry of Interior?
We actually have two major problems. One is not following the laws as they're supposed to be. Two, you cannot give a communal punishment to people. He's come up with quite a number of allegations that I would want to say the best way would have been to deal with those ones who are breaking the law, but not to give a communal punishment to everybody. The number two, again, there is always a process of the law to deal with the issues in this country because we have our laws in place. And the best way is when you have somebody who is like, for example, the way he's saying, allowing children to play, I think the best thing is to arrest the person, confiscate the machine, take them to court, let them go through the due process of the law. And I think that would have been the best way to go about it. Because for us, we feel like we are not being treated fairly. When you look at these other competitors, the ones who are doing the online, betting,
yes.
There are quite a number of things to be done on that line as well. And instead of the government focusing exactly on what is supposed to be done, generally on betting industry, because we need to do an overhaul. When you look at the way things are being done in this country, there are quite a number of issues which we are agreeing. And that's why in numerous times we've tried to do letters and try to seek the audience of the CS, because I think if you can listen to us, you tell us where the problem is coming from. Then number three, also the allegations that these machines are owned by Chinese. I think that is something that is falsely misconstrued by Kenyans, because the truth of the matter is these machines, members of my society, I really want to talk about members of my society in particular, because I don't want to talk about everybody. They are all Kenyans, and there's no any foreigner in my society.
How do you get these machines?
The machines are actually imported.
Where are they made?
They are imported in China, and some of them will bring parts and assemble them here. But the machines are brought in having paid the necessary taxes that are required.
Let me ask you a question, because obviously the general concern, particularly from the Cabinet Secretary and the greater deal of Kenyans, is the social ills associated with gaming and betting. From where you sit, is there a red flag from where you sit on the level and, the level at which Kenyans are betting daily? Is it a level of concern for you?
To be very honest with you, the way I said initially, I think there's great concern, not only from the gaming machines, but in the whole industry. There's a lot that we need to do to rectify and to do things right. The way we are advertising, the way things are done even online, we need to come up with a proper set of regulations. That's why I think for me, there's a regulator, I think the BCLB, who is actually supposed to be the right people carrying out the exercise, cautiously not to break the law, and doing it in a way that is not going to hurt Kenyans. Yes.
You insist your members are not breaking the law in terms of your operations.
Yes.
What are your members doing right that these other people are not doing right, so that we can be able to draw parallels?
Oh, honestly, we have some internal regulations within the association, and we have a very strict code of conduct. And one of the things that we try to do is to promote what we call a responsible gambling. This entails protection of the underage and the vulnerable groups. When we talk about vulnerable groups, we talk about those people who have mental challenges and those ones struggling with addiction. When you look at on the other side, ours is real time. It's put there, and most of the time they are put in bars. Obviously, there are no kids going to the bars physically, because ours is real time and they are physical. Then number two, if they're kept in a premises, it's an enclosed premises with something blocking making sure that whoever is passing outside cannot see what is happening inside. And somebody on the door to make sure that you control who is coming
What
in.
you're alluding to are the operations of a casino-like kind of betting.
Yes, and honestly speaking, it's allowed by the Constitution, and I think among the fundamental human rights, the government cannot stop what is provided for by the Constitution. It can only regulate. And what we're asking the CS to do, I think the crackdown will not solve the problem. The problem will be solved by either we wait for the conclusion of the case or sit down with the stakeholders, those who are ready to do the business genuinely. And because we are ready to restructure our operations at any time when the government wants, and tell us exactly what do you want us to do. So that we can conform with all the requirements. We are already doing our best, even as a society at our own level. And beside, again, knowing that, you know, there is a court case that is going on, a petition. The petitioner's properties are not supposed to be touched until the matter is concluded, which is almost actually, I think, until when the court can give direction. And if anything, if the CS and the chiefs and the DOs and the county commissioners feel anybody is breaking the law, I think instead of really subjecting Kenyans, poor Kenyans, to this kind of a mob justice kind of an action, a communal punishment, I think the best thing is to arrest the person and take them to court, not to destroy their property that is really bought with money that is hard-earned.
Jackie, let me just have that story playing on split screen on one end as we continue with this conversation, because I want us to make, you know, small references to that story and what you're seeing there, the destruction of these machines in Kawangware. But you and I know, particularly in this informal settlements, and you go to these places, you're looking at Kawangware, you're also looking at places like Kayole or wherever they are. At every point, at every corner, you find these gambling machines. My question for you would be, are you saying these are not your members?
Majority are not my members.
And what problem do you have with their gambling machines being destroyed?
Most of them that it's what we call communal punishment. That's my problem. When you are collecting the ones of that belongs to these foreigners who are here illegally, you also collect. You don't tell your people whom are you supposed to target, because for me, if the CS is targeting those who are allowing children directly instead of giving a communal punishment, I don't think I'll have any problem with what he's doing. And beside, again, if he is following the law, like take the culprits to court instead of destroying their property, let the court decide what to be done with the machines. I don't have any problem with him cracking on those who are doing it in the wrong way. But I have a problem when he's hurting innocent people who are ready to do this business in a genuine way, and they have licenses from the county government, and they are ready to comply, and they are always asking him, can you tell us exactly where the problem is?
All right, tell me something, because obviously from where you sit and listening to you, you're saying is what the government lacks is proper regulation for this industry. When you get a sit-in with the president, with the cabinet secretary Fred Matiang'i, what will be your proposals and what areas of regulation are you focusing on that do not exist right now?
One is the location where one is supposed to place the machine, because the machine is not supposed to be anywhere near a learning institution, near a church, near a mosque. And beside, again, we cannot have machines everywhere. We really need to regulate the number of machines per area. And beside, again, if there is anything that the national government feels that they also need to have, or maybe some revenues also to be collected, I think that can be implemented. But having proper regulations means knowing what time these machines should operate, which area they should be put, not everywhere, and actually working with those people who are ready to work with him. And, the other things that following, like protection of the underage and the people who have, and the vulnerable groups actually at the same time. I think for me, if that can be done, this is a very easy, small issue to settle, instead of blowing it out of proportion and doing illegality and unlawful things by destroying properties of petitioners who have a case in court. That really does not augur well.
Tell me something. You want to have a sit down with the cabinet secretary, but you have already taken the government to court. Does that show good faith on your end?
Honestly speaking, even before we took the government to court, we actually tried in all ways, to be heard, because we needed to be treated equally and to be given an opportunity to operate this business that is allowed by our constitution. But it all happened in vain. We did not manage. And in the process, there was that order that was given out to crack down everybody. Having members of my society who had licenses from the county government and they were ready to comply, the only other option for us was to seek the protection of the court so that this thing can be sorted. But the way I'm saying, we've been ready and we are ready. And I don't think the court allows for arbitration, and I think these issues can be sorted out. People don't necessarily need to fight. Yes.
Let's talk about internal self-regulation, particularly on your part, because it's one point, for government to introduce regulations to this industry, which is booming, by the way. But then internal self-regulation from your end, what are you doing to root out this? Because what the government is doing in reaction is to destroy these gambling machines operating illegally. But from your end as operators, what are you doing to root out these bad elements within your ranks?
We have, actually, this is the problem, because you have tried to work initially, like you have somebody putting the machine outside and kids are playing. Obviously, if you put it outside, it's not a good thing. And in so many instances, we have even tried to call the local security officers to tell them, remember, I have quite a number of residents calling even as far as Kisii and telling them, somebody is telling me there's some machines there. And I think if, for example, the government would decide to work with those who are ready to be regulated, I think the county and the national government can work together to ensure this happens. I think those people will be the ones to ensure in their areas, there are no illegal operators. Yeah. Yes.
With this accusation or general feeling that these gamings and betting firms have been holding government hostage. Obviously, you remember the 35% taxation for betting firms, of course, being introduced by government. And betting firms really saying we're going to exit this country. But you're going to other countries like the United Kingdom. That is what they're being taxed. Are gaming firms and betting firms holding the government hostage?
Honestly speaking, as I said initially,
yes.
Our fear also is that maybe for them, maybe they're happy that we are being pulled out of the market because competition, obviously. And I think also the same time...
You're saying the betting firms?
What I'm trying to say that the other people are happy that we're being pushed, because for them it's more business, less competition and more business. But also think at the same time also the government needs to be independent. The way you say it, I also feel the same. And that the government needs to be independent, and the regulator must always be able to act without really favoring any area and looking at this field, in a way that they are able to put the regulations without any fear of intimidation from anybody or any other kind of thing like that. But for me, I tend to think the government really need to do quite a number of things to make sure that we have a level playing field, that, when the threats and intimidations are coming, obviously you can always tell what we are really going through and what is happening outside there. Yes.
Have you tried to engage the legislature in terms of helping you, particularly on the part of ensuring that the law is favorable to betting, particularly responsible betting?
Yeah, actually we are really pushing right now. I think we are lucky that the committee will give us a hearing. We want to give contribution at every stage so that when we're going to amend the new act, that the inclusion of every Kenyan that is going to be included, who is ready to do the business in a proper way. Yeah. Yes.
As we wind up, there's so many Kenyans watching you, and still they don't get the sense of betting, and particularly this gaming. Not obviously from the part of those of you that are doing it legally, but because of what they've been subjected to and their children have been subjected to in these corners of the streets. What would you want to tell Kenyans on that count?
What I want to say is that, sometimes there is this, unfair profiling of a certain business, and it's given that name, and actually some people really end up developing a very negative attitude. The truth of the matter is that these are innocent Kenyans, they are innocent Kenyans in the same industry who are ready to conform with any requirements, and these Kenyans are not allowing children, and actually for them is better than the online thing and so on and so forth. Yeah. Because when somebody is on the phone, you will not know what they are doing with their phone betting. And for us, it's physical, and given a chance, this is one industry that can create employment for, with a very small number of machines, it can create employment for over 200,000 Kenyans, the youth especially, and it can generate revenue to the national and the county government, and help also to reduce crime in our country.
All right. Do I wish you all the best?
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And of course, I hope the Cabinet Secretary is watching. Obviously, this evening had spoken to the Cabinet, the Chief Administrative Secretary, Patrick Olen Tutu, and I'm sure he's watching the conversation. But obviously, again, at least from your admission, there are facets of this gaming that is illegal, and that is what you intend also to root out as stakeholders in this particular sector. It's got an interesting conversation, and we'll be watching, looking forward, and of course wish you the best again to see whether you secure that meeting with the Cabinet Secretary, Fred Matiang'i.